Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar session on S/4HANA migration gone wrong. And today you're going to learn about the costly mistakes that can happen with migration and how DataLark can help to avoid them. Um, so we're going to get started here. Um, I'm joined by Eric Steida, and I'm Matt Rolling. So I'll do a brief intro on myself. I'm a client partner at LeverX. I've been with LeverX for about 8 years now. I'm based out of Detroit, Michigan, and I'll pass it over to Eric.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Hi, Eric Steida, Vice President of Services and Products at LeverX. Have been working in the SAP space for the last 25 years or so. So look forward to getting you some great information today on data migrations in S4.
Okay, great. Let's get into a brief introduction on who LeverX is. So if we go to the next slide here. So LeverX is a global system integrator with coverage within various different time zones and countries. We're based out of Miami in Florida in the US, and we have many different offices in EU and other regions as well. So we have all sorts of certifications with our partners, Microsoft, Google, AWS, SAP especially, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Many different certifications, and we've been in business for over 20 years. So the specific platform DataLark that we'll be showing today is a migration accelerator. It's a very nice ETL tool that speeds up and simplifies the process of moving company data to SAP systems. We've won an innovation award last year and in this year by SAP. DataLark is available in the SAP Store, and specifically related to LeverX, we're a global strategic supplier to SAP, which means we provide development services and all sorts of other things. And we're on this short list of basically 15 companies that provide these services to SAP. So a very strategic partner of SAP is LeverX, and LeverX develops this DataLark product. So now we're going to jump into the this next section here, and I'll pass it over to Eric.
Excellent, Matt. Thank you for the introduction today. So today, what we're going to do is we'll talk a little bit about the S4 HANA imperative that, with the SAP ECC going into maintenance mode or going out of maintenance or in 2027, then the need to move to S4. We'll talk about costly mistakes in S4 HANA migration, and then we'll talk about how DataLark prevents failures across the migration cycle. So I have a few slides up front, and then we'll go into some demonstrations of DataLark so you can actually get a look at the tool and how it works. So let's first talk about uh, with SAP ending maintenance for ECC in December 2027. Moving to S4 is really not an option. Moving to S4 isn't really optional anymore. So, but the surprising part, only about a third of customers have made the jump to S4. So, and those who have nearly and of those who have, nearly two-thirds say their projects missed the mark on budget, timeline, or quality. So what's going wrong? From what we've seen, there are three major challenges that can throw off an S4HANA migration, of course, if they aren't handled the right way. So let's look at a couple challenges when it comes to S4 migrations. So the first challenge comes down to data quality. If you don't know the state of your ECC data or you're not controlling it, problems will surface late in the migration. Duplicates, outdated materials, incomplete business partner records, other inconsistencies usually show up during validation, which means rework, failed cycles, and a much longer cutover. Challenge number two, unmanaged transformation logic. When rules aren't centralized or documented, each cycle creates new errors. This leads to inconsistent results, extra cleanup, audit issues, and slipping timelines. A snowball that gets bigger every round. Challenge number three is cutover executions that's not transparent and too manual. So cutover is the riskiest part of migration. If the project lacks visibility, depends on manual steps, and doesn't have strong reconciliation, the chances of delays, mismatches, or even failed go live go way up. This issue compounds across every phase of the S4 HANA migration. The good news, DataLark puts controls at every checkpoint, so problems get caught early before they snowball. In a real project, all this runs in one end-to-end DataLark flow, which I'm going to show you in a minute or two. For the demo, we splitted this into simple steps so we can walk through the full demonstration, the full transformational journey, and how to use DataLark. Let's start with biggest data migration headaches, and that's dealing with data when you don't actually know what kind of shape it is in. So it's like picking up and moving, picking up for a move without opening any of the boxes. Maybe everything's neat, maybe it's a total mess. You just don't know until it's too late. How does DataLark fix this? It handles the prep in three simple steps. Profiling. This is a quick health check. DataLark scans your data and highlights the issues, missing fields, duplicates, messy formats, mixed languages, all the stuff that will blow up your migration later. Now you know exactly what you're dealing with. Cleansing. This is the cleanup phase. Old test records gone, empty critical fields removed, random multi-language descriptions cleaned up. Only good quality data moves forward. Standardization. Everything gets normalized. Codes follow the same structure. Descriptions use one format. Numbers follow consistent rules. This ensures the new system can actually read everything cleanly when you go live. So what's the payoff? You catch all the issues early before migration starts. You avoid a ton of rework after go live, and you end up with a clean, reliable data that won't cause surprises. It's basically preventative maintenance for your migration the work that saves you months of pain down the road. So imagine you're facing a large-scale migration uh, program from legacy ECC into S/4HANA. This is exactly the type of project we're demonstrating today, a full end-to-end material master migration. And while in real delivery, this run inside one continuous project, we're going to show you the DataLark flow today. So let's begin with phase one, analysis and preparation. This is where most migration programs hit their first serious challenge. Long before any mapping or transformation begins, companies begin to struggle to get a reliable view of their ECC data. Extractions are inconsistent. Different teams work with different versions of the same tables, and critical issues as a result of data processing. So, testing was fixing them slow, expensive, and usually delays the entire process. Our approach changes from the very first step. We read the MARA and MKD tables directly into ECC and immediately profile them inside data. The team gets instant visibility into the true shape of the data, what's complete, what's inconsistent, and what requires attention before we even start designing transformation rules. This gives us a clean, confident starting point. Instead of discovering broken data late in the project, we surface it upfront, remove uncertainty, and create a solid foundation for all later stages of the migration. Let's start by connecting our source system, SAP ECC. We start with filtering criteria, and this acts as which simply controls what we want to extract from ECC. So from here, we narrow down the control, we connect to ECC, and this is where we'll log into and authenticate to which system we want using the enterprise grade security and authorization rules. And this will get us connected. Once connected, DataLark establishes a secure RFC session with the backend, and we can start retrieving the material master data. Now we proceed with configuring the export fields to extract the source data. We start with the SAP read table plugin. We load the two tables, MARA and MAKT, for the material descriptions. These are the most foundational objects in any material master cleanup project. Using the field selection, we extract the required fields from MARA and MAKD, and MKT data sets into the pipeline. This will produce two structured outputs, separate 2D steps, the next two separate 2D data sets, which are now ready for our next step. Profiling. The next step is to understand what exactly is inside our source data before we make any changes, before we cleanse or standardize anything. We first need to assess the quality, completeness, and structure of the incoming data. This is where the data profiling plugin comes into play. The goal here is not to fix your data yet. No cleansing happens at this stage. Instead, we are generating a clear visual, easy to interpret picture of what fields exist in the table, how complete the data is, whether there are missing values, and what potential risks may appear later during transformation or migration. The plugin allows us to fully customize what will appear in the resulting report. In Configuration tab, we define the report title, output, directory, and format, and configure which data to extract and how it will appear, including options for summary, statistics, visualizations, and sample previews. So the system automatically produces a clear and accessible overview of the data set and its structure. In our scenario, we're profiling two separate tables, so the plugin will generate two individual HTML reports. Once configuration and mappings are ready, we run the project. We start by opening Mara, and the Mara profiling report immediately gives us a high-level health check of our raw data. We can check the overall statistics, missing values, unusual patterns, and all auto-detected alerts. This already tells us where the data is clean and where we may need to apply cleansing rules before migration. First, let's walk through the overview. Here we can quickly see how complete the data set is. For example, the percentage of missing cells, any duplicate rows, and the distribution of variable types. And right away it becomes clear. Next, we move to the Alerts tab. This is where the system automatically flags suspicious or risky patterns. For example, we see several fields and unusually high correlation. This is not unnecessarily an error, but it does indicate unexpected dependencies such as document number always appearing together with the same material type. And you see the hints at inconsistent maintenance and is exactly the type of thing we want to resolve before we migrate anything to S4. We also see imbalance warnings for document number and base unit of measure, meaning some values appear much more often than others and are used inconsistently. We note missing values in the material group, zero values in net weight, and the fact that the material number is 100% unique. The uniqueness is expected for material master data, but it shows that we cannot rely on the duplicate check for data quality. So the cleansing and normalization rules will apply later, will be critical. In the reproduction tab, the report shows us how long the profiling took, in our case around 2 seconds, along with additional metadata that confirms the profiling step is lightweight with even larger data sets. Scrolling further down, we get into the variable level analysis, which is several red flags become obvious. Looking at the base unit of measure, we notice not only imbalance, but also formatting inconsistencies such as PC instead of EA. Material group is more serious. Over 10% of the records are missing classification, which means those materials are not fully maintained in the source system. Net weight contains many zeros, so we'll handle all this during the standardization phase where we clean formats and ensure consistency. You can explore visualizations like correlation, heat maps, and missing value charts to quickly see patterns and gaps in the data. The sample rows highlight records with missing or inconsistent values, which are exactly the ones we address in the next cleansing and standardization steps. Looking at the MAKT profiling report, we see that the data set has no missing values or duplicates, but it isn't fully consistent. Looking closer, the language field shows mostly English entries, yet there are several records in other language and a few invalid codes. Descriptions reveal a mix of correct values and placeholders. or incomplete entries, uh, which could cause confusion or errors in S4. Material numbers are unique as expected, but any inconsistencies in language description or group would directly impact usability downstream from these. Findings from these two profiling reports is it's clear we need to filter out non-English entries, remove placeholders or invalid descriptions, removing missing fields and missing material groups by adding leading zeros. These cleansing and standardization rules will ensure that only high quality, consistent data moves forward, reducing errors in procurement, reporting, and other business processes. Now that we have identified the issues in our source data, we move on to the data cleansing project. For this demo, we start by importing the previously exported ECC data from MARA and MAKT tables into data. This is our staging data set that is ready for cleansing. We then open the cleansing plugin from DataLark, where we define the three main cleansing rules that are applied automatically to the imported data using the plugin. Using the plugin's transformation field mapping interface, we visually select the files from the staging data set, define conditions, and specify actions. Remove test materials by checking the material number patterns. Next, any record with empty material group is excluded. Finally, we filter non-English descriptions, retaining only records in English to ensure the migrated descriptions are valid and meaningful. Once the rules are defined and fields mapped, we then run the cleansing project after execution. We verify the results in the Excel file. Now our data is free from test entries, incomplete materials, and non-English descriptions, fully prepared for the next normalization step where formatting and numeric corrections will be applied. Now that cleansing is complete, we move to standardization. This step ensures our data is fully consistent and ready for migration into S/4HANA. We start by opening the Excel files generated in the previous cleansing step and load them into the standardization program plugin. In the plugin, we define a set of transformation rules which are applied automatically to all relevant fields. Once the rules are defined, we save the project and run it. The transformation data is then exported back to Excel using the Excel export plugin, showing all text ready for smooth transition into S4. For this project, we have three main normalization rules. Certain columns, such as material type and base unit measure, are converted into uppercase to avoid issues with case sensitivities and master data. Net weight values are standardized and replaced with decimal separators, ensuring numeric consistency. For S/4HANA material group, codes are formatted by adding leading zeros to make all the values 5 digits long, ensuring unique uniform classification for S4. With these normalization transformations, we resolve the issue in unknown and uncontrolled data before migration happens. And English numeric values are consistent, corrected, and the data set is cleaned and ready for import into S4 at this time. So let's go down to the next. So if we talk, go back here to the next slide. We talk about the next challenge, which is automated transformation. This is where we're going to work on doing the automated transformation of the data based on the rules. So let's jump back to the demonstration here. Okay, and let's play this. So here, we'll transform the data and streamline the migration process. So transformation logic is a source of a lot of migration errors. Rules are often scattered and across spreadsheets, scripts, or even in people's heads, which makes dry runs slow, inconsistent, and risky during the migration process. DataLark will define automated transformation rules directly in the plugin. This ensures every rule is consistent, reusable, and fully document with checks applied to catch issues early, all, all before any data moves to production. We start by importing the Excel file from previous cleansing step. Uh, Inside the transformation plugin, we'll define all the business rules in a single interface instead of maintaining multiple files. Every mapping, conditional rule, and formatting step is documented and applied automatically, visible to both business and IT teams. For this project, we apply rules to standardize material descriptions and units. Any description containing test is replaced with migrated tests with migrate from each, so the only meaningful data moves forward. Unit of measures are normalized from PC to each, ensuring that the base unit of measure are consistent for planning and procurement. Uh, these rules are implemented using if-then logic and where necessary, pattern matching to ensure precise transformations. Once all rules are applied, the data set is exported back to Excel, where we can then verify the descriptions that have been updated and units standardized, check for any exceptions and anomalies. With these transformations, we have resolved uh, all issues. All descriptions are now meaningful and consistent, and then we can move onwards to the next step in the process, which is actually executing the migration and then doing your automated reconciliation. So, and our outcome here should be fewer failed records, fully controlled and transparent execution, fast business sign off, and no post go live surprises. Now that our data is fully cleansed and standardized, the challenge is we can get it into S/4HANA without errors, even small issues, misformatted codes, missing fields, or wrong decimal places can block the load, causing delays, last minute fixes, and extra work. We import the cleansed data set into DataLark and map it directly to the live staging tables in an SAP migration cockpit. Mandatory fields are validated, formats are checked, and transactional execution ensures that any failed row triggers a rollback that catches potential issues before loading. So only clean and fully compliant data reaches the S4HANA. We start by uploading the cleansed Excel file that was produced by our previous pipeline. You can see that the Excel is automatically split into logical structures, Mara and MKT exactly, like an ECC. We connect the source data into the migration cockpit, uh, um, which allows us to map directly into the live S4 HANA staging tables. The plugin connects S4 SAP HANA and retrieves the real field structure of the staging table used in migration cockpit. What we see here is the actual S4 HANA structures for this migration object. Our MAR and MKT files aligned immediately with the corresponding staging fields, material number, group, language, dependent descriptions, and more. Mandatory fields are marked with the red M icon. As we map the data, data validates formats and links required fields and consistent in real time. Any missing or incorrect misformatted values are caught at this stage before any data reaches the cockpit. This step is crucial because the migration cockpit is strict. A single incorrect key or formatting issue can block the whole load. Validating against the live staging structures ensures every row is already in the exact format for HANA specs, eliminating last minute debugging or conversion requirements. To establish the connection, we simply provide the mass transfer ID, which ties the plugin to a specific migration project, the technical object name defining the staging table, structure, and the system ID. Based on this, DataLark retrieves the active staging structure directly from SAP. From here, the mapping cleansed Excel data directly writes into the live staging table. This guarantees alignment with the active cockpit. Project ensures a clean, predictable load into S4 with no surprises before we run the migration. Let me show you the target staging table in SAP. That's where you can see right now it's empty. This is used to pick up data. Now let's run the job. DataLark writes directly into the SAP staging tables using transactional execution. The entire load is row. If one row fails, the entire load can be rolled back. This ensures that the migration cockpit always receives clean and complete data sets. Now you see the records are successfully located in staging tables. All fields and descriptions, product types, and unit of measure, net weights are now explicitly where they need to be. The migration cockpit can then pick these up immediately. Here we can check out our two migrated tables, MAR and MAKT. And just like that in the previous step, if there was a format issue or missing data, we would catch it before loading. Here is clean controlled data, fully transparent, located into SAP. And uh, we have no troubleshooting is complete, no guessing why it's not working. Um, this is where we verify the load at each record from ECC, but we start with exporting the ECC tables like MAR and MAKT, just as we did. In the first step, we join these data sets where necessary so that all related data is ready. Preparing uh, the data this way ensures that everything is clean and structured before we run any checks. Next, we set up the reconciliation project in DataLark. On the canvas, you'll see two source components, one reading the tables from an initial ECC system through the read table connector, and another one connecting to S4 database where we migrated the data and applied all transformation rules via the SQL HANA DB connector. Both these sources feed into the reconciliation plugin, which acts as the target, performs the comparison between the ECC data and the transformed S4HANA data. The plugin automatically identifies mismatches between two systems. We configure key fields like material number, plant, and company code to ensure the reconciliation focus on critical attributes. We can also set the thresholds, rules for formatting, and assign weights to the most important fields. Once the reconciliation runs, all reconciliation results can be exported to Excel or analyzed further using Python plugin. Additional business rules or validation logic can be applied automatically, making this process repeatable and audible. A detailed Excel report reconciliation shows the total record counts, key field validation results, and any delta records that didn't match or were adjusted during the migration. For example, we can see how many records were successfully loaded, which ones were dropped due to business rules, and whether any fields adjusted, there were any adjusted. This gives immediate visibility into results so the business can sign off quickly. This report also includes a detailed view for every single record. Here we can see the ECC values versus the S4HANA values, the match status field for each field, and notes explaining why changes were made. This level of detail makes it easy to investigate any issues and provides full transparency. Reconciliation is now automated, fast, and transparent instead of waiting for weeks for manual checks. The business gets clear, actionable results within hours, and the team can confidently move forward knowing that the data in S4 is accurate, complete, and the best part, all this in DataLark projects. So migration projects, here's kind of what we went over as part of the demo. We looked at the analysis and preparation. So this is where we did our data profiling. We looked at the data. We set up our transformation rules. We validated that everything was going to look good. We went into that solution implementation and testing. That's where we tested our data to make sure that what we were actually going to run into the system was going to work. We then went into the migration execution, and this is where we actually loaded the data, executed the data loads, monitored the migration jobs, and looked at doing our final validation. And then in our post-migration activities, we had our data reconciliation and our performance and integrity testing and any other things for hypercare and support. So in that demonstration, we saw a full end-to-end process for the from all the way from analysis of the data all the way to the loading and final validation. With that, I would like to hand it over now for Q&A.
So it looks like we have two questions here in the chat. I'll read the first one. Can this tool do more than just clean slash load data? Can it actually merge two different sources into one master, part of data in one database, part of data in some other database, and then make one clean data set for S4?
Yes, DataLark can actually read from multiple data sources and merge them into one unified data set. It supports connection to MS SQL, Oracle, SAP. So if part of your data sits in ECC and the rest is in another database, DataLark can pull everything together in one flow and produce one clean master data set that you can export into S4.
Perfect. And we have one last question. We saw how DataLark handles the one-time migration from ECC to S/4HANA, but after go live, can it also be used for ongoing data synchronization? For example, keeping material master data aligned between S/4HANA and external systems like PLM or e-commerce platforms.
Yes, yeah. So DataLark can be used not only for the one-time migrations, as I kind of demonstrated today, but also for ongoing synchronization after go live. It supports scheduled, event-driven integration between S4 and external systems such as PLM or e-commerce through the RFC and OData connectors, SQL or API plugins and automation features. So.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, Eric. Thanks everyone for joining. I think we're a little bit over here, so I hope you enjoyed the webinar. And if you have any other questions, please let us know and we'll answer them. Thanks.
Thank you all.